for discussions and evaluation of the energy policy of Slovakia, our neighbors, and the European Union. This 16th annual edition is a very specific one. This is a very special one because it takes place in a very special context, unprecedented war, which was started by Russia against Ukraine on 24th of February. And if I look back to the history of this conference, and I'm really very happy that I can welcome again Mr. Minister Karel Hirman, because together with him, Jan Klepač, who is also present here in this room, and some other colleagues, in 2007, we decided to organize this first conference. Why? Because actually, we did an analysis, and simply there was a growing understanding that there might something happen in the Russian-Ukrainian relations, that the sort of the probability that there's a risk that there will be full stoppage of the supply of gas from Russia via Ukraine to Slovakia might happen, and this was the main topic of the first years of the conference. Then 2009 gas crisis came, and actually after that we learned that much better than national solutions to energy are a regional one, and simply we expanded a bit the topic and agenda of the conference and started to involve more and more our neighbors into discussions. And finally, the third stage, I would say, the green transition. And now we are in 2016, and we are back when it comes to the topic as we started in 2007. For me, as the organizer, is very specific sort of the cycle, how it managed, or the 16 years when I look at the agenda of the conference, how it happened that, after 16 years, we are going again to discuss what we already were, thought that it's decided already, settled, that actually, so it's not issue we should focus so much. The agenda of the is structured in a way that it covers all the main issues of the energy crisis, its causes, its consequences, and discuss ways out of it. We did our best, I'm speaking now on behalf of the organizing team, to prepare an interesting agenda so that actually, the discussions here, will help all of us, all the participants, to understand better, the problem and what are ways out from this energy crisis. Let me also start by thanking all of you who accepted the invitations. I would like to thank to all my colleagues from the organizing team, all our supporters and partners, and my special thanks go to the Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic, Eduard Heger, and Minister of Economy, Karel Hirman, for taking patronage over this of this conference. Let me apologize, Prime Minister Eduard Heger, due to other very urgent working commitments. Simply, he cannot be with us today. But let me admit that I'm his advisor on issues related to Ukraine, and we discussed the messages he would share with you, and we agreed that he simply authorized me to share the messages, just 5 main messages with you. I will do, but yes, we agreed the messages, but the interpretation is mine. Therefore, please, if there will be any critics, so it should be addressed to me. First message: freedom, democracy, rule of law, peace in Europe are not for sale. Because this energy crisis is a part of a larger military crisis, unprecedented one, since the end of the World War II, and is a tool, and is another, the core, I would say, battlefield of this crisis. It's rather a tool which is used by one side of the conflict simply to go ahead with its with sort of the goals, how they understood by Russia in this conflict. But again, freedom, democracy, rule of law, peace in Europe are not for sale. And no one cheap Russian gas exists that would save jobs in our countries. You can see these arguments, in many European countries. But this is an illusion. We can discuss that. But again, so this is what should be stressed, especially in the context. Yes, this is a very political message, but it should be stressed. Interesting is that I'm going now to the second message. It's rather argument, because we had energy crisis around the years of financial crisis, 2007, 8, 9, 10. Also, there was the heating prices on energy commodities. Oil was like 147 dollars per barrel, and so on and so on. Then it again became calm, but it's not the first energy crisis we have. But it's my understanding it's the second one big energy crisis with a geopolitical background. The previous one was oil shock, so-called known on the oil crisis at the beginning of 70s. And what is very, I would say, interesting in this context, that exactly the start of cooperation with the Soviet Union was seen in terms of supply of gas and oil. It was seen as a solution to the problem. And there was a problem with the supply from the Persian Gulf and the Arab countries. And now, after 40 years, we have again the energy crisis with geopolitical background. And what was seen then as a solution looks like a problem today. And this was Germany, 1970. This was for the first time when Germany managed to conclude a contract on supply of natural gas from the Soviet Union, 1970, with the agreement of the Western partners and allies. This was the first the economic cooperation contract, which started simply, which later on bring us to the this Helsinki process and so on, and the reunification of Germany. That's true, and I think the Ostpolitik of Germany is a very important part of the deal we have in Europe. But still, it's very interesting that, again, it's the second geopolitical crisis, when at the beginning, starting cooperation with the Soviet Union was a solution. Now we have a problem with that. So we had like 40 years, more or less, stable supply from Russia, which became a part of our own prosperity and economic system. Now this is shaking all the system. And it's also interesting to look how this crisis was managed at the beginning of 70s, the oil crisis. And I think that we also can learn some lessons for our needs today. First of all, joint measures. I'm very happy that we'll continue in presenting the World Energy Outlook by International Energy Agency. International Energy Agency was established after oil shock, just with the aim simply to monitor the situation, simply give timely awareness if there are some problems, etc. And EIA is one of the institutional solutions which was born and produced by this oil shock at the beginning of 70s. So we can have plenty of joint measures we can adapt within the European Union in cooperation with our partner countries. We need, as the same, to replace, as we replace partly supply from Persian Gulf and Arab countries, now we have to replace supply from Russia. And I think the LNG, when it comes to gas, natural gas, will play a crucial role. And green transition. And I think in the green transition, this is what actually is a key, because this is what we have in our own hands. And finally, if we do not want to have a third energy crisis with geopolitical background, simply we have to stop dependence, the European dependence of Europe on supply of fossil fuels, fossil energy commodities from the third countries. And so this brings me to the third message. Crisis is always also an opportunity, and we must seize it. And what we can change is the way how we produce, distribute, and consume energy. The first two points regard mostly to the technologies, new technologies. The third one is about the energy identity and political, if you want, political culture, how we consume energy. Fourth message, which we agree with the Prime Minister, it's the importance of regional cooperation and solidarity. And here the Slovakia is, especially with the lessons learned and the measures adopted in Slovakia after the gas crisis 2009 are very illustrative. We strengthened, re-established, all the interconnectors with the Czech Republic, Hungary, Austria, Poland. Since 2014, Slovakia supplies reverse flows of gas to Ukraine. We are happy that Moldova, a couple of weeks ago, started to use the Slovak transit road to import the gas from EU for its own needs. So this is something what we learned after 2009. This is something we have to work together, and what we need is really to be flexible and because there will be times testing our ability to be, for solidarity with our neighbors. And finally, long-term solution, as in the 70s, and today it is a settlement of the international conflict, which is a cause for this energy crisis, and not only. And here is the only one acceptable solution for Europeans, for Slovakia. I can speak that very frankly on behalf of the Prime Minister. We fully, when we discuss the issues like that regarding the war in Ukraine, we share it. Ukraine must win, because no other solution is good for us. If it might happen something the opposite, what that would mean, militarization of our state budgets, the war with Russia in the air constantly, less money for healthcare system, education, social services, green transition, digitalization, etc., etc. That would bring us, simply throw us back decades. In my understanding, the beginning of 60s, before the Caribbean crisis, when there was before the Cold War. The Cold War was formed after the Caribbean crisis. Before that, because actually we have no real regime how to regulate military relations with Russia. So therefore, we have to do what we can, and Slovakia is doing what it can to help Ukraine to win this war. So this is for the beginning, and also introduction, opening of the conference, and some remarks and messages that Mr. Prime Minister would voice here. Anyway, again, interpretation is mine, is it may be different, but the main messages are the same. Thank you for your attention. I wish you enjoyable, interesting time you will spend at this conference, and simply hope that I wish you, all of us, to get better understanding. So I'm sorry, what's the message? Okay. Thank you. Fine. Now I would like to invite Pavol Demeš to take the floor and to moderate the first panel. Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Peter, I think that you should just leave, gentlemen, this part of show and for wake up, but later on he may become a bit more tired and leave the floor. My name is Pavol Demeš, and it's my great privilege that I was asked by organizers Alexander Duleba and others to moderate the opening panel. Before I will introduce the panelists, I would like just to say that Slovakia produced two conferences which gain enormous significance not only here but internationally. Conference GlobSec, which is bringing people mostly from foreign policy and security community, and this conference started by Alexander Duleba and his team, which is focused on energy security. And I think that whenever we are saying that something is never more important than now, when it comes to energy and energy security, this is by far the most convincing argument that people like yourself who are dealing with energy issues, whether you are political figures, experts, business people who are handling energy issues, you are today at the core of foreign policy on global scale, and particularly those of us who live in Europe after Russia invasion to Ukraine and disrupting international order. I think energy is becoming fundamental issue, and that is why I think that it is important that in coming days you will be discussing how to deal with this insecurity which was brought by Russia to international audience. I think that also when it comes to Slovakia, I think that story of Alexander Duleba and Karel Hirman, together with Jan Klepač, who is in the room, just shows how important it is that expertise is valued by policymakers. Karel Hirman, throughout the years, was coming to this conference as expert, and he is leading expert in field of energy and just recently became Minister of Economy, which for this country was quite a shock because we had some reshuffle in coalition and Karel Hirman turned from one day to another to Minister of Economy. Alexander Duleba, after outbreak of war in Ukraine, became the most demanded expert commenting on what's going on, and not only commenting, but also advising government how to deal with this tragic situation. And he is advising nowadays not only on general foreign policy issues, but also on energy, which I think is very valued in this country and in the region. Originally, what you have in the program, we were supposed to have, after Karel Hirman, Minister Galushenko, but he will be replaced by Yaroslav Demchenkov, whom I will introduce after he will be before he will be speaking after Minister of Economy Hirman. And then we also, or you have in program Andrei Spinu, Minister of Infrastructure and Regional Development from Moldova. he had to cancel his participation because he's accompanying his President Maya Sandu to Paris today. So for that reason, I think it just shows how fluid times we are living, but I'm sure that this opening panel will be an interesting one which will set the stage and tone on issue of enhancing energy security. We are very glad that we have, besides experts and practitioners in the room, also I saw ambassadors of Great Britain, France, probably there are other excellencies in the room, so welcome to this show. Also, we are streaming this, that is why I don't see what yellow people have, but for you to know, this, we are online, and with this I would like to ask Karel Hirman, Minister of Economy of the Slovak Republic since September 22, who was, as I mentioned, long-term energy expert, commentator, advisor to several governmental agencies, but he was also energy expert and member of the team of advisors to Ukrainian Prime Minister Volodymyr Hrojsman, and is also known for media community since he is publishing regularly, or has published regularly on energy issues. Karel Hirman, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pavel. Good morning, everybody. This protest or this event in our event shows that Slovakia is a democratic country. Really, everybody could present opinion on public, but unfortunately, these rules, common rules, sometimes are not respect people who wants to present ideas. I had 2 weeks ago very good meeting, debate with head of Greenpeace organization in Slovakia. This discussion was very correct. Of course, not all topics which we debate during this our meeting, we had same opinion, but I think that correct dialogue is fundamental principle of democracy and society. And principle is that if I going to even other organization or other entity is not polite to present my opinion so formal like you now. It is finally for Greenpeace. It is not good point for public, for the people, because your ideas which present now, paradoxically on our conference were present several times. Personally, I presented a lot of these your ideas are more or less correct, but if we are going to deeper to the details, we have to have other picture, or this picture is much more not different, but much more like there are a lot of aspects which we have to take to our decisions and our analyses. And thank you very much for your presentation, but I will be very glad if your event, on our event, will finish now. Can I ask you for it? Môžem vás poprosiť, aby ste svoju akciu na tejto našej akcii ukončili, bola vám umožnená a so slušnosťou a s úctou zasadli naspäť medzi ľudí a účastníkov konferencie a zapojili sa normálne a regulárne do debaty, tak ako sa to slúši a patrí v normálnej, korektnej, demokratickej spoločnosti. Ďakujem veľmi pekne. Ďakujem v mene vôbec všeobecnej ako verejnosti, že ste až tak nezdiskreditovali Greenpeace, ako ste mohli ešte. Takže, dear minister, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear excellencies, topic of energy security has become a European topic also due to specific needs and situation of the Central and Eastern European EU member states and our neighbors countries like Ukraine, Moldova or Balkan countries. After the gas crisis in 2009, we jointly implemented several key measures in the field of energy infrastructure and regulatory framework. I think that our energy crisis now, it is crisis of new era. Welcome to this conference and welcome to the end of fossil fuels era too. Sasha mentioned several times Ukraine war or Russian war against Ukraine. I think that this war is the significant part of this new era, because the end of fossil fuels era is and will be very difficult period for all our world. We know that during this fossil era, we had several global crises and two global wars, because First World War and Second World War, one of the reasons of these wars was energy, coal and oil, and protecting supply of these crucial energy sources for states, for this era, for Germany, or for western part of world, or for Japan. Japan, it was one of crucial strategic problems for Tokyo in the end of 13 to have oil, to have control on oil production in Asia. That's why we cannot be naive that the end of fossil fuels era will be without problem, without conflicts. Our ideas in Europe regarding Green Deal, for us, according to our opinion, it is very good solution. It is like peaceful solution for our planet, for our civilization, but generally for human. But it is not true, because for state producers of fossil fuels, Russia, Persian Gulf, and others, it is problem. It is problem for budgets of the states, for all regions, for society, stabilization of society, for power of the states. The advice, we have to recognize that the end of fossil fuels era will be very complicated, not due to new technical and innovation solutions, how to implement it, renewable energy sources, new energy efficiency measures to our economy and ordinary life, but it is problem for our security generally, for security and principle of global security. If we are looking to our current situation in Slovakia, we have to say that our energy security before this winter is not bad. Thanks to management of SPP, the biggest gas trader in Slovakia, we almost 70% our import of gas is coming from non-Russia sources. In 1 year ago, it was almost 100, if we are speaking about SPP portfolio. Our total capacity, our gas storages in Slovakia is 3.4 billion cubic meters, and now this volume of storage gas represents more than 94% of the total storage capacity in the half of November. That's why if we are talking about gas market situation in Slovakia is not bad. Is positive, and we are ready for this winter season. We have, Sasha mentioned that we have connection with all our neighbors countries, including Poland, because last connection was open only few weeks ago with Poland, and we have now access to the crucial LNG terminals on Baltic Sea coast, Atlantic via Germany and Czech Republic, and with Adriatic LNG terminals in Italy or Croatia too. As regards electricity supplies, we see no immediate threat. However, we have to be open that Slovak nuclear power plants run solely on Russian nuclear fuel. Diversification of nuclear fuel represents a substantial challenge for other countries in the region as well. Cooperation Slovakia with Czech Republic, Finland, and Hungary is very, very close or very intensive last time, and it is our common problem to find solution for supply of nuclear fuels for our reactors, Soviet and Russia design VVR 440, but together we could this solution without additional cost, and this time will be for find the solution, and for first supply will be much earlier than if we are going to the negotiations with our potential partners separately. It is very, very good example, cooperation in EU countries or among EU countries regarding energy security issues. In this context, but I would like to emphasize, to strengthen the significant role of nuclear component in electricity mix, which contribute not only low carbon economy, but also to security of supply and technical stability of the electricity system. We have, for Slovakia, I'm proud that our production of electricity in Slovakia is more than 80% low carbon production, thanks to nuclear power station and hydroelectric power station. A lot of EU countries has only like plan in next 10 or 20 years to have these figures. But in Slovakia, it is reality now that more than 80% of our electricity production is low carbon production and stable. It's very, very important too. Maybe you know that we have market coupling area for electricity with Czech Republic, Hungary, and Romania. As thanks to this, our market coupling, Ukraine and Moldova electricity grid system was synchronized with NSOE in September, I think, this year. And it is very, again, Slovakia is very important partner for these two countries, not only for reverse flow of gas, as mentioned Sasha, but for stabilization, the synchron connection, Ukraine and Moldova grid system to NSOE and for trading with electricity. Now, after attacks of Russia on electricity grid system on Ukraine, it is very, very important momentum, and it is our responsibility to help Ukraine and Moldova grid system in synchro with NSOE grid system. If we have only very short remark regarding oil market. You know that was crucial for us, together with Czech Republic and Hungary, to exempt the imports via Druzhba South line, via Druzhba pipeline, from the sanction regime. Why? Because these supplies are crucial for our refineries in Slovakia, Bratislava Slovnaft, Százhalombatta in Hungary, and Litvínov in Czech Republic. The exception from sanction gives us the necessary time to transform the technologies, this refinery, while supplying our neighbors and adjusting the infrastructure to import other types of oil via the Adria pipeline, which is coming to Hungary and Slovakia from Omišalj terminal in Croatia. Adria is really open for the supply. Capacities of oil pipeline Adria is enough for refineries in Hungary and Slovakia, but there is problem with logistics, with trading, and of course with some changing in technologies of these refineries for more efficiency production oil product with other kind of oil which are coming by tankers to the Omishal, but it is not this solution is not, don't need long term. And now our refinery, which is part of Group MOL, are working very hard on this issue. Very important in connect of this on this topic is that our countries are huge exporter of oil products to Ukraine. And we know that after February 2023, sanction regime will cover export of oil products from Russian oil too. And it is very sensitive topic for Slovakia because our refinery is one of the crucial players on oil market, our region, especially regarding diesel, for instance. There is huge deficit of diesel products, not only in Austria, in Czech Republic and Hungary too, and without a new regime for export oil product after February 2023, this export to the Ukraine will be not possible. And for Ukraine, import oil products is strategic issue, of course, during the war. That's why we will, if Ukraine will have interest, we will work together with Ukraine regarding this sanction or this regime and this topic. Together with Ukraine, will work with Brussels and with our partners in EU because it is very important issue for stabilization oil market, oil products market in Ukraine and for export oil products to Ukraine. The security of supply has an economic dimension, and the current situation poses a threat to supply of electricity and gas to households and industry. I consider the recent development of gas and electricity prices in the EU to be absolutely unacceptable. The Ministry of Economy of the Slovak Republic is currently being put in operation a state aid scheme to compensate the increased cost of entrepreneurs in connection with high energy prices. We are preparing several supporting schemes for our industry and households too. According to the agreement, Slovenské elektrárne, Slovak power plants should sell their power electricity as a commodity for households by 2024 at a fixed price of 61 euro per megawatt hour, which reflects their production cost and reasonable profit. And the total agreed volume of electricity at these rates is our 6 terawatt hour per year. It is very important for stabilization of our social situation for our households. It is agreement between Minister of Economy, Minister of Finance, and the shareholders of Slovenské elektrárne. But we need common EU solution. In the long term, we need to reform the design of the electricity market and separate electricity and gas prices. However, we must now focus on short-term emergency measures that will mitigate the serious consequences of turbulent energy developments. We must to find solution for stabilization our markets, gas and electricity markets, and for stabilization, for creation of pricing mechanism on this market. Now it is under very difficult discussion among our member states. I personally signed a letter almost two months ago of 15 ministers addressed to the Commission regarding implementation some price corridor for gas, which will be more transparent than current mechanism, and we know that this topic is very sensitive for all our countries in EU, and final solution we have to find on next meeting this week, but we will see. I'm skeptical, but we have to work on this solution, because next winter, next year, 2023-24, maybe will be much more difficult for all of us than this winter. That's why it has to be our priority to find common solution, because if we are going to individually scheme and supporting scheme for our industry and households without common solution, finally we are going to destroy our common market. It is very, very dangerous trend, and we have to stop it. Finally, I would like to say one remark. We could hear last time from several EU countries or from our politicians in Slovakia too, or in other countries, that sanction regime against Russia due to war in Ukraine is reason our energy problem. It is not true. Russia, Mr. Putin, unfortunately, put to the waste box all pragmatic work and relationship on energy cooperation between Moscow and EU countries and Western and Central Europe. This work, which started in the end of 70s and during when Cold War and after democratic revolution in our region, after collapse of Soviet Union, all this time this work on this cooperation was very, very fair and very effective for both sides, for Russian people, for Russia, for transit countries like Ukraine, Slovakia, and for customers in Europe. Unfortunately, Mr. Putin and elite in Moscow, current elite of Moscow, definitely stopped this cooperation. Supply of gas to Europe, Putin started cut off this process started in the summer last year. Before previous winter, gas storages of Gazprom in the Netherlands, Germany, and Austria were almost empty. It was before attack on Ukraine, before February 2022, before our sanction. It means that Mr. Putin and Kremlin's elite prepare on this war, on this attack on Ukraine, and finally it is, unfortunately, it is energy war against us, against customer of the Russian gas and energy supplies in Europe. We cannot be naive, and we have to reflect on this new situation. We have to find new diversification, new partners for it, not only for gas, for oil, and nuclear fuels too. But of course, it is one part of solution, and second one is energy efficiency, using renewable energy sources, and new innovations, new technologies for our energy sector. Without these components, we cannot achieve not only climate target for 2050, but for much earlier time to find this solution for our problem, for our energy security, our common energy security in Europe, for our common market, for our people, for our industry in the Europe. I am optimistic. I think that we will find these solutions. We will find decisions which are positive and fair for all of us. And I hope that this process will be without threat for our democracy and for our society and for our parliament democracy in Europe. Thank you very much for attention. A lot of energy for all of you, and thank you for your visit and participation on our conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. You showed true leadership before your speech with this conflict resolution. I didn't know who those, you knew that they are Greenpeace, and Minister addressed them in Slovak and they left peacefully. Sasha, I hope you didn't arrange this expose. Okay, fine. Excellent. Thank you, and also excellent expose. Now, let me introduce our next speaker from country which is spelled most often globally these days. Yaroslav Demchenkov is Deputy Minister of Energy of Ukraine for European integration. And Mr. Demchenko is the cabinet, he was appointed to this new position in May 2020. And is dealing with energy and international affairs in broader sense. His expertise is also in European integration, Green Deal implementation, energy transition, research, innovation, and he's involved also in development of coal sector transformation and hydrogen energy. I understand from Sasha Duleba that you, Karel Hirman, you met with our next speaker in Uzhhorod recently, so you are duet. Even if we would be most happy to have you with us, Mr. Demchenkov, we are extremely happy that in short notice you were able to replace your minister and be with us today and tell us how you see whole complex issues of enhancing energy security from perspective of a country which is suffering so much of destruction of whole energy sector infrastructure, and we are watching, all of us, so attentively what's going on. And as you heard also from ministers' intervention, that we are trying to be as good partners as possible, not only Slovakia but all European countries. Before you ask, before you will take the floor, that you would like to bring us some short video. So I would like to ask now if we could see video on energy front from Ukraine, after which Jaroslav Demchenko will take the floor. Nech sa páči, môžeme to video. Thank you very much for these very powerful images. And now I would like to ask you, Mr. Demchenkov, to address this audience. Thank you very much for being with us.
Dear colleagues, friends, this is unbelievable, but unfortunately it is very real. The situation is very serious, it is controlled, but dear colleagues, your excellencies, friends, after Minister Herman, it's very difficult to speak. He covered the subject in a very professional and in-depth matter. Like the theme of this conference suggests, we should put a lot of efforts in trying to rethink energy security. Europe could have prevented this energy crisis. There were obvious steps that should have been done to speed up energy transition, not allow Russia to increase its share on the European energy market because it seems profitable and as a result build an economy deeply dependent on Russian fossil fuels. Ukraine understood what Russian was like, and we had told our partners abroad about it. Unfortunately, we were not heard. Ukraine faced gas conflict with Russia in 2005, 2008, and in 2014. And we can say with confidence that the Kremlin never follows economic goals only. It should be mentioned that our country stopped buying Russian gas back in 2015 exactly because Russia was using this commodity as a political leverage. Russia's national symbol is matryoshka, a doll that has several different layers. Behind one face, another are hidden. Just as imperialistic goals are hidden behind so-called cheap gas and affordable loans. Cheap gas and oil only means that later the Kremlin will demand to pay much more, to pay with sovereignty and independence. It is not written in Russian military doctrine, but it is installed in the whole Russian mindset to use energy sources as a weapon. Let's make it clear. The large-scale aggression against Ukraine is not really a surprise. Putin mentioned his intentions many times in this speech, in his personal speeches. He had tested the potential response of the international community by invading Georgia in 2008 and occupying Crimea and Donbass in 2014, by its active and brutal involvement in the Syria. How did the international community respond to this? A few years after the war in Georgia, Gazprom started building the Nord Stream 1 pipeline. After the Russian invasion in Crimea and Donbass, Gazprom was allowed to build the Nord Stream 2. If this is not encouraged, then what? Russia aggression is based on the idea that Russia can do whatever it wants because Europe cannot afford to give up Russian energy. Energy as a weapon, this is Russian ideology. Every year, Russia fossil export incomes increased and increased its military budget. Unfortunately, this terrible war was fooled with the money European paid and is still paying for Russian gas and oil. Russia almost succeeded in entangling Europe with the gas pipelines, but the war became the moment of truth. We allowed this addiction to happen, but we must get rid of it Fortunately, this season is mine. Europe is united in the face of danger. The EU has done what seems impossible in February and dramatically decreased its dependence on Russian fossil fuels. European gas storages are full, plus Ukraine can storages are full, and plus Ukraine can offer additional 15 billion cubic meters capacity for European gas reserves. It means that Russian energy blackmail will not work. This winter, household bill will be higher than usual, but Europe can withstand it. And millions of civilians in Ukraine can withstand darkness and cold after constant barbaric Russian missiles attack on our energy system, as you can see on video previously. Today, we have one more warning. Europe shouldn't make another mistake. It would be naive to believe that a state that easily shells and captured nuclear power plants can have peaceful nuclear technologies. Zaporizhzhia NPP, the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, has been occupied for almost 8 months. The site is turned into a military camp. Its infrastructure is open shell. Just several days ago, Rivnenska and Khmelnytska NPPs were cut off from electricity supply due to the Russian shelling, and their safety system, including cooling, run on diesel generators. Russia regularly is putting Europe on the brink of nuclear disaster of the scale of the Fukushima accident. Russian soldiers that hold Zaporizhzhia NPP are nuclear terrorists, and Rosatom staff that assist them are nuclear terrorists as well. Therefore, today we must think not only about rejecting Russian gas and oil, but about Russia's denuclearization as well, about ban of Russian nuclear technologies, business in this area, and access of Russian scientists to nuclear research. Every nuclear plant that was built with Russian expertise or with using Russian technologies can be captured with the help of Rosatom, whose staff is familiar with all technologies processes. This is an essential point in our panel about energy security in times of climate change and a war in Eastern Europe. But don't call it war in Eastern Europe. The Eastern Europe concept goes back to the Cold War and Russian attempts to reshape the sphere of interest. This is the war in Europe and against Europe, its values and principles. The war against European ideas of a better sustainable future where energy is not used as a weapon and does not harm the environment. If something happened to the Ukrainian nuclear plants due to the Russian shelling, the consequences will not face Eastern or Western or whatever else Europe, but the whole continent. Russia threatens our civilization itself. Our response must be adequate. First of all, this is crucial to increase sanctions on Russia. We must undermine Russian ability to wage wars in the present and in the future. There is a direct connection between Russian fossil fuels export and its aggression. Energy sources are directly used to fuel the war. We call upon our partners in Slovakia to speed up actions to abandon Russian oil completely. And before that, we ask you to implement price cap on Russian oil at the cost level as proposed by G7. This will not only significantly impair Russia's ability to wage war, but also help stabilize fuel prices in the global market. Eventually, the same actions should be applied by the EU member states to Russian gas as well. Previously, Russia kept Central and Eastern Europe in its firm grip as a monopolist. Now we must make sure that gas transmission infrastructure is available to multiply alternative suppliers of gas. The second is to keep and increase support of Ukraine's energy sector with necessary equipment for repairs. Russia is attacking not just the Ukrainian grid, it is attacking the part of the European system. We need strategic reserves of higher voltage equipment, such as auto transformers, circuit breakers and disconnectors, as well as other equipment as cables, generators, and so on. It brings us to the third essential point about a new architecture of the energy security. Neither for Western or Northern Europe, nor for Southern or Eastern. This division is imaginary, and it is very much in Russians' interest. We need energy security for every country on the continent because we see how devastating aggression can be. We should not be afraid of an energy crisis in the long run. Ukraine, with its nuclear capacities, its renewable potential, including hydrogen and biogas, can replace Russia as the continental energy supplier. We should not disconnect the fact, we should not disconnect Ukraine because of war. We should not discount the fact that Ukraine too is rich in raw materials and can contribute in it. And our energy for sure will be affordable, clean, carbon, and imperialism-free energy as a source of development, not a fuel of wars. Ukraine's entering the raw materials market and participating in all cycles of the modern production and development of green technologies in Europe to speed up green transition is our undeniable threat, along with sustainable produced electricity. This will be a real victory over Russia when Ukraine can realize its potential in this way. It will strengthen us and the whole of Europe immensely. We should switch our gas and fuel consumption for electricity as much as possible. We should switch, for sure, our gas and fuel consumption for electricity. And where we continue to use gas, ensure that we expect our own gas resources in the most efficient way. And this is for Ukraine very important task. To achieve this, we must win the war and prevent potential energy disaster. Close the sky with the help of modern air defense systems. The occupying Zaporizhia NPP as a key condition in achieving victory and guarantee stability on the continent. Without Russian raw materials, gas, oil, nuclear fuel, and technologies. All these things that fill the Russian budget and keep the Russian war machine running. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Minister. It's really incredible to listen to you. You are having more energy than many of us because for us watching what's going in our countries is already complicating, but seeing in what kind of challenges you are dealing with and all of your leadership, starting from President Zelensky, through our cabinet ministers, parliament, yourself, I think that you are showing us enormous example of not to give up in this huge fight, which is much bigger than about energy security. It is about international order, and you in Ukraine are doing extraordinary job. Since you are with us, and now we are having about 20 minutes now for Q&A, I would like to start right away with you, and then I will ask questions to our panelists, Minister Hirman and Alexander Duleba. Slovakia is having nowadays presidency in Visegrad 4 group. How do you see role of this grouping, which is in a way regional group? We are, three of us are neighbor states to you, and all our countries are since February intertwined with your faith because influx of refugees, humanitarian assistance, military assistance, economic assistance, and so on. What would you like to tell us about improving our performance, or is there anything where Visegrad 4 group could do more or something differently than until now vis-à-vis Ukraine, and namely in energy sector, which we are discussing at this conference?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question. Indeed, this is very important issue. And we should have one voice, we should have one message: stop Russian behavior. Because this is, as I have mentioned, war not Ukraine, not with Ukraine, but with Europe. War against our sustainable vision on energy sector development. War against the European Green Deal, and war against replacement of fossil fuels with renewables, with more sustainable sources of energy. That's why we should pay more attention how we could speed up energy transition in our countries, how we can be more efficient, more active in this, on this way. Of course, gas, this is a topic of our panel, and we understand this, that for just transition, this is a temporary solution with gas, LNG gas or natural gas. But we should think right now about future. Just a few days ago, COP27 was implemented in Egypt, and all leaders discussed how we could prevent the climate crisis, and the main energy in this. Energy should do everything to be more sustainable. Energy should be more clean, safe, affordable, and reliable for our consumers, for our family, for our people. And this is the first task for us after victory, also speed up everything and replace Russia in energy mix, in European energy mix, with our raw materials, with our sustainable energy, and with our sustainable and clean electricity. And for sure we will do this. And this is a task for us in this tough period of time during war, but also for all countries where you haven't war, but you should think and be more active about just transition, about clean future, about clean and sustainable energy for our families. That's why let's think about this as a task for this initiative.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Alexander Duleba, would you be so kind to expand on this Visegrad cooperation? Because since outbreak of war, there were all kinds of differences in attitudes among we four countries vis-à-vis sanction. Hungary has all the time some troubles with that and is not so united in position as other Visegrad 4 members. In the field of energy, what have you observed since February until now in between our four countries? How are we doing and what should we do differently probably? Because Karel Hirman, then question will go to you also, whether you are in touch with your counterparts, ministers of economy, energy within Visegrad 4, how are we doing in these fields? So first, technically and comparatively, and then from you on political level, how are we intertwined with the European Union? Are we adding or are we troublemakers?
Let me be very brief and blunt. Actually, because of position of Hungary on this war, we have a problem actually to run the presidency, because actually, I mean, our partners from Poland, from the Czech Republic, they are not ready to participate in the planned meetings. And already some of those meetings, so we had to cancel as a presidency country because actually there was not a political will simply to meet. So therefore, it is a problem here. I think that we have more or less clear position of three countries, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland. And then we have the fourth country, which is Hungary. And Hungary has its own sort of the approach to that. But this approach is seen as a problematic from the perspective of other three. And that's it. So, I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and I mean, I hope that things might change, but definitely, you know, in the history of the Visegrad, we had a problem, so the issues where we could not find a sort of the common position, we skip it. This was the way how the Visegrad works. So if we agree, so we can agree on cooperation, let's go forward. If we do not agree, let's skip it. So it was like this, but the war is too much important issues just to skip it. And therefore my question is, and it's rather a question for participants, and we can discuss about the future of the Visegrad, because you can skip technical issues. You can skip, okay, we cannot agree on some acquis communautaire or proposal of the European Union, and we have different positions, okay, let's forget and let's work where we can work. But it's too much important issue with a huge impact on all the aspects of the political and economic lives of our countries just to skip it. We'll see. I do not have a response now how Visegrad will look like, you know, in 1 or 2 years. I hope that after the war, which will soon.
Your position, will energy and attitude of Hungary undermine Visegrad future, how you see it, and are you in touch with your Hungarian counterpart?
Yeah, I had very short debate with Minister of Szijjártó, Minister Szijjártó, during our summits of Minister for Energy in Brussels or in the Luxembourg. I have to be open. Position Slovakia, Poland, and Czech Republic is same. It's common position. Of course, Czech presidency, due to presidency, Czech Republic has to be more diplomatic, and of course it is very sensitive position. But we could see, and we have dialogue, debates, meetings, etc. Position is same on crucial topics. Of course, position of Hungary on these meetings, on the summits, yeah, in Brussels or Luxembourg, position of my colleague, Mr. Szijjártó, is different. On the other side, I mentioned that we have other common topics and other common problems which are more or less together. For nuclear fuel, diversification of nuclear fuel. There is very good cooperation with our Czech friends, with our Hungarian neighbors and friends, and with our Finland partners, because it is our common problem. How to find this new supplier for our reactors VVR 440. It means that, or other topic, oil supply. I mentioned that it is our common interest to have the open road via south line of Druzhba, which are for Russian oil, which are coming to our refineries via Ukraine territory. And if this pipeline is functioning, I think that it's logical that that production from this oil products has to have open road or open way for export back to Ukraine, because it is very important issue for, first of all, for Ukraine, but for our refineries too, for our market too. That's why sometimes on several concrete issues, energy issues, we have good cooperation with Hungarian, for instance. But on the maybe these crucial topics, or these long-term topics, or these strategic topics, unfortunately, position Warsaw, Prague, and Bratislava is more or less common. It's very close, but Budapest, unfortunately, has other opinion.
Sasha, question about two important players which were not mentioned so far, but which definitely have impact on not only energy security, but hard security and security in general, United States and Germany. Since last conference, 15th, we are at 16th. How attitude, position of United States and Germany changed after 1 year, particularly after outbreak of war, and how these two countries need to be calculated in all these issues of winning the war and making energy and hardcore security sort of safe?
Very interesting and important question, but it would take really a lot of time for me to go into details. Therefore, I will be very brief. For Germany, it's a revolution, because they completely redefined their, I would say, foreign policy. Because when I mentioned this first contract, 1970, and building blocks of the Ostpolitik, Helsinki process, reunification of Germany, it took 30 years for Germans, but they managed. You know, as I remember when former German foreign minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher, he was like calling, let's start to trade with the vegetables and we will change the partner. So this was the, let's trade with, you know, whatever. And it brought an outcome, because really it took 30 years, but this is sort of policy for Germany was very successful, led to the unification of Germany, strengthening its position within the European Union and as a country. And now they are rethinking that. Something which led to the modern Germany, they are rethinking. And simply, we have to understand, you know, sort of the German way of thinking and how they approach sort of, or so-called pragmatism in relations, because it's really something which is inherited deeply into the German foreign policy. But it's being changed. This is a revolution. 100 billion euros for military, defense, etc., something completely new. The United States, if you look, again, there's some question how we can replace, the shortage of supply from some key supplies. As it was at the beginning of 70s, it was Soviet Union. Now, if you look at the gas structure, you see LNG, and the US play an important role. US and Qatar may be the most important suppliers that can help us simply to replace the supplies from Russia. And therefore, they play absolutely key, and the United States and the position, especially the Biden's administration, is very clear: support for Ukraine. And I think the NATO and the transatlantic community, including Germany, if I would quote Chancellor Scholz like 2 days ago, it's a clear message, you know. Even 1 month, I would say 2, 3, before June, because I think the consensus more or less was achieved in June. There was the Council of the European Union deciding about the granting candidate status to Ukraine, and I think before that event, I mean, more or less, we developed a consensual vision of what are our interests vis-à-vis Ukraine. So these are dramatic changes, and especially for Germany, I would say.
And Gerhard Schröder is doing what these days?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. So he also evaporate. Do you know what is he doing?
No, but one. Do you remember that when Putin came to Kremlin in Berlin was this like idea that our guy in Kremlin, due to this connection with German history or part of this KGB, he was agent in Dresden, I think. But finally, we could see that Putin is not the guy of Berlin in Kremlin, but Schröder was guy of Moscow or Kremlin in Berlin. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite.
Yeah. Okay, now we are getting questions via Slido. Mr. Demchenko, now 2 questions to you. That you mentioned 2 nuclear power plants which are occupied by Russia. The question is, what is the current situation of the Crimean nuclear power plant? It's the first Crimean nuclear power plant. What's the situation with that? And second is, what can you do to bring in Hungary closer to position of other Visegrad 3 partners? Are you in touch with Hungarian authorities trying to bring them on the same platform as we discussed we have with the rest 3 countries?
Thank you so much for your questions. Indeed, the issue of nuclear safety, this is the top issue in this war, because since the 3rd of March, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, as I have mentioned, the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, has been occupied, and its infrastructure is open shell. Even yesterday, we had some war accidents in the territory of Zaporizhia and following strikes just a week ago, 2 other nuclear power plants, Rivnenska and Khmelnytska, were cut off from the grid and their own electricity needs, including cooling systems, and run on diesel generators. And this is, as I have mentioned, very, very dangerous situation. And this left us 1 step away from a nuclear accident of a Fukushima scale. The same approach, the same protocol was in Fukushima. Because of diesel generator, because of cooling system was not able functioning well. So, and this accident happened. We work with International Energy Atomic Agency and in close cooperation, and our request from the first day of the occupation of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the occupation of this territory, this plant. Ukraine, as an independent country since the independence, has never have any objection from this respected international organization regarding our own nuclear safety or any concerns regarding nuclear safety in our nuclear power plants. Now, Russia occupied the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe, and we have real problem we are not able to control situation in this territory because terrorists now in this territory, and Rosatom support it. So, first of all, we should deoccupy these territories. Russian troops and Rosatom staff should leave this territory, and Ukrainian staff and Ukrainian professionals should start work and remain the security situation in the territory of this nuclear power plant, and create a neutral zone, safe zone near all nuclear power plants in Europe. So this is really important question, and we also think that good message for Russian will be sanctions against Russian nuclear industry. Rosatom and other related company to nuclear generation, nuclear industry should be under sanctions. This is important message, and this action should be done. And this second question was regarding, so could you please repeat the question?
Budapest, and how are you ready to bring in more Hungarian attitude and policies vis-à-vis Ukraine to make it more common with other EU mainstream?
Yeah, this initiative really, as I have mentioned before, any cooperation really important. Because right now, we need new security architecture for the long term. And all mentioned countries, including Hungary, should be a part of this new security architecture without Russian fuels, and with more our own fuels, sustainable energy, because we should all together in Europe withstand this barbaric attack and demonstrate that terroristic methods don't bring any advantage, only isolation. And we work with Hungarian government regarding this. Of course, they have some situation, political situation in the country, but war in Ukraine demonstrate that business as usual with Russia impossible. This is myth. Such cooperation with Russia as usual, to do business as usual with Russia, this is one way to the isolation, one way to the next war, to the strengthen Russian imperialistic, authoritarian style of life. Imagine 100 rockets fired just only on the 15th of November, and this cost for Russian $1 billion. Imagine, this is huge budgets for all of our countries, and they destroyed our transmission system. They destroyed our energy companies with one goal: to demonstrate war that Russia is a boss in this society, and that Russia would like to continue fossil fuel style of life in our European continent. That's why such initiatives and all of European countries should isolate Russia, should stop, demonstrate this terroristic way of doing business by Russia. And just such actions could have real success and strengthen energy security in whole Europe and stop this war. And position on Hungary really important, and I hope that all of our words and intentions and statements will have results in real politics of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, and we are coming to the end of this. There are a bunch of questions which I think will be discussed during various breakout sessions and plenary sessions. So Last two questions will go to two of you gentlemen. We are having 16th edition of this Central European Energy Conference, and it is very different setting in which we are debating energy security. What would you wish, Sasha, we will start with you, that we will be discussing on 17th edition of Central European Conference?
I would say that
Same question will go to you. You have a little more time to think.
hopefully new technologies and cooperation investments, how we can invest into the innovations and green transition. We had already to 2016 when this conference was matched with the set plan conference of the European Commission, and we hosted like 200 companies from all the Europe, you know, inventing all types and I mean, sort of the how to produce energy, how to distribute, how to consume. It was really nice. I was really happy. So, but it is a different question and different debate. So I do much hope that next conference or in 2 years, so we'll go back to this debate. This was very sort of the enthusiastic and full of energy, giving people more energy, you know.
What you would like next year's conference look like?
I fully agree with Sasha. During these 2 months, my position in minister, I met with several very clever, very innovation companies. Slovakia, for me, was really, or is big surprise how many we have very innovative companies, invent people. Really, it is huge source for not only for our energy sector but generally for our society. I just was in Kežmarok on Saturday. There is geothermal. They are preparing geothermal heating for central heating system of town. Other company which has very good results, practical results, not ideas but practical results, physical data, how to use hydrogen together with natural gas for heating, production of heating and electricity, cogeneration equipment. That's why, yes, it is. I think it is only. It is topic which have to be in the focus our debate. Maybe not only for the future conference, but today too. And it is only one way how to find this really relevant solution for sustainable solution for our problems in energy sector generally. For security, for climate, for emissions problem, for local energy sources, renewables, together with fossil fuels for transition period. These practical solutions, which like I'm engineer, that I like it because debate regarding idea, philosophy is very we need it, but without this practical technical solution is not possible.
But first, Ukraine shall win, and then we can change the topics.
Mr. Galoshenko, and Ukraine must win. And last question goes to you. I wanted to thank Mr. Galoshenko that he was replaced by Mr. Demchenko. Deputy Minister, last question goes to you. What you personally do to keep your personal energy alive? Do you do yoga, jogging, or what you do to do your job, which must be one of the most difficult jobs Mr. Galoshenko and yourself are having these days? I don't think there is other country in the world where people like two of you and your colleagues at ministry every morning waking up, what was destroyed, how are we going to do so? This is not theories of energy security, but you must every morning to think what you are going to keep people warm after all and have energy, electricity, gas, and all of this. So please tell us your recipe for us to think about.
Thank you. You can see here, this is brain and heart.
Yeah.
We have just only one country. Wake up, go to bed, with clear understanding that just one way for all of us should stop Russia. Because we love our country, respect Ukraine, respect our independence, respect the rule of law. And for me, as a deputy minister, also very important the future of our country. But in current situation, our ministry, the main goal now is to deliver electricity power to our consumers because of winter. Because people should have capacity, should have power, we have heating, we have water, we have elevator, we have internet, we have access to knowledge, because we very depend on electricity. And Putin would like to demonstrate that he has power to change the style of life in our country, destroyed our electricity grids, destroyed high voltage equipment. Our work now to prepare campaign as quick as possible to deliver needed power, energy, electricity to our consumers. And for me personally, I believe that after victory in our country, we will have huge opportunity for businesses, for international partners to develop new sustainable energy sector here in Ukraine. Best practice, best technologies should be here in Ukraine after victory. And this energy will be based, for my knowledge, will be based not on the coal, oil, or gas. This new technology, this new type of energy system in Ukraine will be based on sustainable global energy transition and the decarbonization of industry. And this approach will be shared not only in Ukraine, but through our partners in Europe. And I really believe that Ukraine, after the victory, will be a significant player on energy market, sustainable energy market in Europe. And we will help all Europe replace Russian and European energy mix and not to have energy as a weapon. That's why we believe in, that our victory and we will celebrate together with our partners. And I would like to say thank you so much for your solidarity, your respect of our country. Thank you so much. I love you also. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Demchenko. And with this, I would like to just tell you that next year we would like to welcome you here. We hope that things will be much different, not only in technology advancement field, but also in peace in your country, which will open up new energies for our imagination, creativity, and collaboration. With these, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank our three excellent panelists, Deputy Minister Jaroslav Demchenkov, Minister Karel Hirman, and driving force behind this conference, Alexander Duleba. Thank you very much and have a cup of tea or coffee.